You guys seen the news. Fred VanVleet from the Houston Rockets tore his ACL. We're going to talk about it. A devastating blow for the Houston Rockets. I'm not going to lie. A week before training camp to begin, possibly out for the entire season. This is a team that was going to be competing for a championship this year with the addition of Kevin Durant, improvements of all the young guys on the rosters, Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun, and now you have basically your captain, your leader, Fred VanVleet, one of the focal points of how the Rockets have been able to turn over the franchise over the past 2 years. I don't know where to start. I'm gonna be real with you. When I saw the news, I was, as a Houston fan, the Astros got swept by the Mariners. The Texans are 0-3 with the worst offense. And Fred VanVleet's gone. Like, I don't know where to start. Man, fast recovery to Fred VanVleet. I know this isn't someone that a lot of NBA media talk about, but his impact for the Rockets over the last 2 years has been immense. I'm talking about the Rockets, when we talked about them 4 or 5 years ago, especially a team that was entering a rebuild that looked disgusting, that had no future. People were downplaying what they had. They were able to bring in some veteran presence, bring in Ime Udoka, the head coach. But when I tell you Fred VanVleet, the numbers may not wow you. The veteran leadership, the impact for the roster, especially with the young guys and how they've improved, is a testament to him coming to this team. This is a guy, specifically this year, on a team that brought in Kevin Durant, who we know how great Kevin Durant is. You look at Alperen Sengun, who I didn't even get to talk to y'all about Alperen Sengun's Eurobasket and how this season he can even take another leap. We talk about guys like Amen Thompson, who people think could be in most improved player talks. Everything just fits seamlessly for the Rockets, and having Fred VanVleet over the last 2 seasons, the offensive load that the Rockets needed him to do was a little bit too much, especially for what you brought him in to do. He was going to be able to eat off the likes of Kevin Durant, the likes of Alperen Sengun, and having that outside shooter and a very good passer who can set the table for others. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna say he's like an insane playmaker, but when the ball needs to get to the right spot, I trust Fred VanVleet to get there. And to be honest with you, it's a very, very tough situation for the Rockets because he is an important piece for what the Rockets wanted to do this year, which is win a championship. We could talk about some of the things that are really, really going to negate the Rockets right now. And I think when you look at the roster, currently you have Fred VanVleet, who's a starting PG, who's going to miss probably the entire season unless barring something crazy. You then have guys like Reed Shepherd and Aaron Holiday. I know people put Amen as a PG. I don't know if he's a PG. I know he's shown flashes of being able to run the offense, but to say, can he do that this season? We're going to have to see. Again, I still think that this roster is very, very talented. Defensively, rebounding. I mean, the only really, really sore gripe that you can look at is the outside shooting. And you lost one of your best outside shooters in Fred VanVleet, which is already tough. Not to mention, another big factor that really, really hurts the Rockets going into this new season, the fact that the salaries, cap space for the Rockets makes it very tough for them to make any moves. I won't go too in depth about the salary cap in the first apron, but to make it very simple for those of you who want to understand this, the Rockets are basically less than $2 million under the first apron. Unfortunately, that is not enough money to sign any vet minimum contract. So they can't sign anybody outright right now. On top of that, another issue is they do have a disability player exception. They can use that, which is around $12.5 million that they can use to improve their roster. The problem is the Rockets are under the first apron. They can't go over the first apron, so they can't even use that. On top of that, with all the transactions they made this offseason, when I talk about Dorian Finney-Smith, Clint Capella, when I talk about all of the guys that they added in or re-signed, they can't move any of those players until December 15th. The only players that they could possibly trade would be players that were already signed to the roster going back into this offseason. So Amen, Reed, Kevin Durant, Sengun, and Tari Eason, which are the focal points of their entire young core, which they do not want to get rid of. They can't make a move until at least late December or early January at the earliest. There is another possibility that I did not mention, that they could trade Fred VanVleet's contract for another player. Fred VanVleet signed a 2-year extension of $50 million. He has a no trade clause. Will he be accepting being traded? I don't know. And looking at this front office since Rafael Stone has taken over, he's been a very player-friendly GM. So I don't know if he will trade Fred VanVleet. I don't know how that will work, but there are many guys that are possible for them to trade for if need be. Guys that I look at are like Derek White, Colin Sexton, DeJounte Murray, and these are all names that are around the same amount of money that Fred VanVleet makes. Is this a viable option? It is. Technically, it is. We have to see what happens by December 15th. They can't move that contract till December 15th. And on top of that, will Fred waive his no trade clause for the sake of the team? This is a very sticky situation. There's a lot of moving pieces going into that. We won't know anything about that as time goes along, but trading Fred VanVleet is an option. I just don't know if the Rockets would do that. And I know I talked about it financially, just improving the roster, but I got to mention again, just the schematic fit for Fred VanVleet. Though he may not be a guy that can go out for 40, 30, you know, the scoring bunches that we see PGs do, he is a very good fit for this roster when it comes to his offending prowess, especially on the team, makes their living on a defensive end, and his ability when it comes to his outside shooting. Fred VanVleet was going to be important in his role just being the off-ball player that you brought him to be as he aged as a Houston Rocket. Now, I do not think the season is over. And I know a lot of fans think the season is over. They don't think and that's fine. You can think however you want. I don't think it's over. And I say it because of this. This is a terrible injury. But if the injury was going to happen at any moment, it happened before training camp. So the Rockets can go into training camp and test to see what they have, especially at the guard spot, even with Amen. Guys like Reed Sheppard. This is literally, like, when I talk about suiting up, this is literally the moment. And I know people talk about Reed Sheppard last year and said, he's not that good of a player. I don't believe that. I think Reed Sheppard didn't get a fair shake in even getting minutes with the team last year. Obviously so, because the team was playing very well. The team was playing fine. And there wasn't a way for him to get into the roster and crack the lineup. That's fine with me. But we knew he was going to have an important role this year. Brother Reed, your role is going to be even immensely important now. And I think that his improvement, his play, is going to be the determining factor of how far the Rockets can go. Because I still think when you look at the Rockets right now, this is still a very tough team to deal with in the Western Conference. Barring however you feel about Fred VanVleet, he is important to the team. But the Rockets still are a very tough team in what they do. The problem for them going into this next season is really going to be initiating their offense. When you add a guy like Kevin Durant to your roster, that really helps in that area. Now, obviously, when we talk about championship level teams, they have different ways of doing so, and losing a guy like Fred is important. But this is still going to be a very tough team to play. They'll still be a top 4, top 5 team in the West at the bare minimum, in my honest opinion. Reed Sheppard, like I mentioned, his improvement is he needs to be viable on the court. Simple as that. And I think he can be. When it comes to Amen Thompson, I know people talk about Amen Thompson being like this next PG for the roster and being this guy. I know he talked about, I think it was to Chris Mannix, he was talking about his improvement this summer, was really trying to shore up his handle and be much more secure with the ball, especially in the half-court offense, which if he does become that, and he has worked on that, and it's viable for the Rockets, then the Rockets can start out a lineup of 6-7 guys and above and still keep their defensive pressure on every single team. Now, this is me mentioning what the Rockets can do. Now, again, they have training camp. They'll see as the season goes along. But Reed Sheppard and Amen Thompson, those two players specifically, regardless if Fred VanVleet got injured or not, those two players, for them to win a championship, which is the entire goal for the Rockets, let's not forget that. Those two players are going to have to up their game regardless. Now, I know as a Houston Rockets fan and people who really follow the Rockets, guys like Aaron Holiday, who have played minutes last season, has given us good minutes. I expect him to get a lot more burn this year. And I honestly believe he's done a very fair job enough to where I feel comfortable with him coming off the bench and doing so, fulfilling the role when need be. So I'm not too worried about the Aaron Holiday minutes, but Reed and Amen are, this is it, bro. Like, dog, like, what do we do? Like, this is the importance of this team. Another thing I want to mention, and I was going to make a video on this, but school be kicking my ass, guys, real stuff. The way Ime ran his offense last year has to change. This year, Alperen Sengun needs to be top 15 in touches. There is no other option for the Rockets this year. Alperen Sengun is your offense going into this next season. That is it. So if you need to start looking at different ways that have Alperen Sengun touching the ball every single possession, then we need to do that. Because I'm not going to lie, I didn't make a Eurobasket video and I really wanted to. What Alperen Sengun looked like in Turkey looked very good. With Fred VanVleet possibly being gone for the entire year. Your main best playmaker is Alperen Sengun. And he has shown you through his 4-year career, he has the chops to do so. For the Rockets to even viably, to just even have a shot, to really keep this machine going, they gotta go through Sengun. They have to. And I think Kevin Durant is in his own stratosphere of player, so where when Kevin Durant is on fire, Kevin Durant's gonna touch the ball. He gonna get the ball. We know what Kevin Durant can do. Sengun specifically this year, and I'm talking. I think a lot of Rockets fans know what I'm saying when I say this. Ime has to trust Sengun with the ball. He has to trust Sengun to say, "Hey, we live and die by you." That's literally that's their best case. That's their best case. The Rockets do have a very easy schedule to start off the year. It's a very easy schedule. I think the first 15 games, first 15, 20 games, they play a lot of teams that really weren't that good last year and they didn't improve as much. I look at I can pull up the roster. I can pull up the game. When I look at their schedule, it really doesn't start picking up until they play Denver on November 21st. So the first month of the season, there are a lot of games that I feel like they should be able to come out on, especially with this roster. Despite losing Fred VanVleet, which is a terrible loss, it's still going to be a very, very tough team to play against. I think the main issues for the Rockets right now, 3-point shooting and just initiating offense. I think the number one thing they can do with initiating offense is going by Şengün and Kevin Durant. Those are your two best players. Those two guys need to, we know, like I said before, Kevin Durant don't even need to be talked about. We know what Kevin Durant can do. Şengün has to be, you gotta live and die by Şengün. You gotta let him, you don't have a choice. The Rockets don't have a choice. So 3-point shooting, initiating offense. I think it's a lot easier with Kevin Durant, and I think that Reed and Amen, we're not asking you to go give us 20. I'm not asking you to go give us 25. This is being a viable PG, and I think we have enough to do so at the bare minimum. And if the Rockets do not have that, by the time December 15 hits, they'll have enough data to know where to go next. But like I said before, very, very rough way to start the year for the Rockets. And I know ACL injuries are weird. I mean, like 10 years ago, ACL injuries mean you were gone for the year, maybe a year and a half. We've seen guys come back 9 months later. So, I mean, if he was to, if Fred VanVleet was to come back, it possibly would be around like May, early May at the bare minimum, which would be like a second round series the Rockets are in. If they make it to the playoffs and win a second round series, win a first round series. So y'all let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm kind of in between it. I think that the Rockets this is tough for them. I don't think it's season killer. As a fan, it feels like it, but you never know. This is the same team last year that won. That was the second seed that many people thought weren't going to be a playing team. I think we're underrating the fact that Kevin Durant is still on this roster. The improvement of the young guys, it's just really, really bad. But I want to hear what you guys think, man. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment section what you think. Until next time, stay on beat.